Hey friends, I just wanted to share a really nice resource that touches on well, first of all, it's a nice resource that does a lot of like what are the crossovers and what are the differentiations between different diagnostic areas. But this one that I want to talk about today is about the overlaps between anorexia and ARFID, which stands for, let's just share it and then we can really say it correctly. And then it also touches on just like the intersectionality of neurocomplexity or neurodivergence with these two diagnoses. So, anorexia nervosa versus avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. And this is by someone known as Dr. Neff. And Livia Sarah contributed to this one, who has a nice looking resource um, website and then also book. So I'll put those in the description. So first of all, I didn't know that I knew that ARFID was had like a higher incidence or comorbidity, they sometimes call it, with autism, but I didn't know that anorexia does. And then I was also aware that anorexia has like a high overlap with gender gender complexity. And what I think is interesting here is that also autism has a really high overlap with gender complexity. And I wonder if if there's an ARFID aspect to the eating stuff for gender diverse people in the same way that there maybe is for neurodivergent folks. And this resource frames the ARFID in like a neurodiverse, affirming way, which I really appreciate. So I'm gonna put it in the description. So if you just want to go look at that resource, you can just go ahead there. But if you want to go through it a little bit with me, we can do that as well. So this is sort of like the standard words that are used for anorexia and ARFID. What I like is further down in the resource when the some of these like classic things are explored in greater nuance because for a lot of us, especially gender diverse people, it's not so much about weight. Um, and I really appreciated the like I'll just scroll down and we'll get into those more nuanced parts because there's also some like aspect of really liking routine and like rules that comes up for neurocomplex people that can play into what might be misdiagnosed as anorexia. And I wonder, I was diagnosed with anorexia, but I wonder if a lot of my anorexia actually showed up more as autism with some ARFID with some gender complexity, um, which I'll speak to in a moment. Okay, so let's get into these nuanced pieces that I think were really helpful for me. Okay, so expanding the perspective on BMI. Um, the prevailing emphasis, it says, on being underweight in terms of using the BMI as a definition of what underweight means, um, is not helpful, right? When you're looking for folks to check in on about if they have any type of challenging relationship with eating. So, the BMI, I've got another video on this and I will share that in the description as well. The BMI is really flawed because it's based off of information that it was like decided to be used by medical professionals based on a committee that 7 out of 9 of them were from weight loss companies. So there was a big like corporate reason for them to want to use the BMI. And then the other thing is that like the health studies that they've done across more diverse representation and since all of the BMI stuff happened, show that people with higher BMI who are actually would be called overweight or obese by the BMI standards are actually healthier in the short and long term than people who are considered normal or underweight by the BMI. So the BMI is not helpful for a huge number of reasons, but one being that if we're only going to look at people who are considered underweight based off of the BMI, then we're going to miss a lot of people who are struggling with their relationship with food. And so I appreciated that one. Like, it's not just people who look skinny to you or who are categorized underweight that could be having difficulties with food. Um, the aspect of the fear of gaining weight it can be a symptom, but it's not a universal experience, especially for neurocomplex folks. There could be some like safety and control um, around um, like I was saying, preference for routine, challenges with change, focus on special interests. And this can kind of like play out into being like something that you are really have a special interest maybe in food and exercise. Or like me, I was really interested in like healthy food and being vegan and having like a lot of strict rules around food. So that kind of like um that autistic part of me got really focused and into that in a way that perhaps I wouldn't have if I didn't have that neurocomplexity. Um, and then the distorted body image thing, they reference like this is the like typical thing that is described as body dysmorphia is like it's a skinny person looking in the mirror and they see a fat person. So that's not always what it's experienced as. It could be more around, like I was saying, categorizing foods as healthy as unhealthy, having rigid routines around it. And then also, this could have some aspect of gender stuff associated with it. I know for me that my eating stuff really kicked up when I hit puberty because my body no longer had like a gender neutral presentation, but it started having these um, things like hips and breasts that really like categorized me as this thing that I didn't want to be associated with. And I found that if I was restricting, then my period stopped and my breasts were smaller and my hips were smaller, and there was just overall like less gender dysphoria. And this is a very is a something that is uh, not unusual within trans and non-binary experience. Okay. All right. And then they just say, like even in the ones that are like almost always associated with anorexia, there's not always within those. So could have something to do with a desire to lose weight, could have something, obsession with weight and food, um, could have a body image distortion, but not always, could have an obsession with exercise, not always, could have a hyper focus on, numbers, could have strict rules and routines around food. Okay. And then ARFID, in contrast, is seen as a feeding disability by some. And it is around three main types. where there's an avoidance of eating based off of these three things, but it could also be a mixture of these. So it could be two of them, it could be one of them, it could be all three. So the first one is sensory based. So that's where like I am the person would be concerned about the textures, taste, colors, or smells of food. And this can make it hard to tolerate a wide variety of foods. That's definitely something that I experienced since childhood. I remember, I was a super compliant child, but when it came to food, I was not able to eat most of the foods that were put in front of me. I wasn't able to eat meat. I wasn't able to eat, things like oatmeal, squishy things. I primarily could eat fried foods, French fries, grilled cheese, things like that. Even if I had to eat meat, like having it in like a fried form, like a chicken nugget was one of the only ways I could do it. Mac and cheese, just some of those like pretty common safe foods that you hear autistic folks or neurodivergent folks talk about. Those were the foods that I could do when I was little and still to this day. And I like the neurodivergent affirming lens. This may reflect an intuitive connection with the body, guiding individuals towards food that satisfy their sensory needs. Their eating behavior, when viewed through this lens, is logical and meets specific needs. So, most of you know that I come to most of life through an internal family systems perspective lens. And that sees all behaviors as really brilliant and well intentioned. And for me, both my anorexia, if it was anorexia, and my ARFID are really loving, compassionate, well intentioned parts of myself that were trying to support me in making sure that I stayed as safe as possible. Um, Okay, fear-based ARFID. Some individuals with ARFID may have a significant fear of negative consequences associated with eating, such as choking, vomiting, or experiencing gastrointestinal discomfort. And this fear can lead to avoidance of certain foods or food groups. So this could be present for me. I don't have it on like a conscious level, but I did have a choking incident when I was a toddler. It was fairly traumatic from what I've been told, so that could be coming up for me. And again, I really like the neurodivergent affirming lens. It's important to note that this fear may be based on actual past experiences and complicated by motor challenges or incidents of choking or vomiting. So I definitely have motor challenges with eating. I was sort of like mocked and made fun of growing up for being a messy eater. And still to this day, like I use a lot of napkins. I have like a really hard time eating in front of other people and coordinating talking with it. So usually when I'm with other people, I'll either just stay quiet or I won't eat. Lack of interest, ARFIDs. This is the last one, and it's just sort of like general disinterest or lack of motivation towards eating that can lead to insufficient food intake and nutritional deficiencies. So this one is not so much like an aversion, but it's like I'm not hungry. I don't feel like it. I was that way until I started taking testosterone recently in the past few years. I just never was hungry. Food never sounded good. It was a chore. I didn't get hunger signals. I still don't get hunger signals. I'll get like a massive headache, and then I'll be like, oh, I haven't eaten in 8 hours. So I am a person who eats according to like, I have an alarm on my phone, and it's like a scheduled eating, every 3 to 4 hours. And so I certainly have some diminished interoceptive awareness. And I also didn't have any enjoyment in food until I started taking testosterone. So it was just like not fun to eat, and I would eat the bare minimum. Now I think some foods taste good. And so I'm eating more and have gained weight as a result, which is positive to me. Um, and I'm grateful for the testosterone. And then, so I like this ND affirming lens as well. A person may struggle with interoceptive awareness, so sensing hunger may be difficult, or alternatively, the feeling of fullness may be really uncomfortable. That's something that I continue to feel uncomfortable with. I also don't like going to the bathroom. And so that was something that was really hard for me when I first started eating after my more my years of more significant restricting, I was like, oh God, I have to go to the bathroom all the time, and I hated that. And then also there may be executive functioning differences, such as says difficulty regulating attention contributing to this, and restriction may be intentional or unintentional. So there's a lot of folks that I know of that organizing food can be too challenging. Paying attention to what time it is so that they know to take a break to eat can be too challenging. Um, Going to the store can be really overwhelming in terms of a sensory experience. So they avoid eating, or even financial difficulties. So there's a lot of reasons why we may avoid eating. And we can have compassion for that. And then, on that one in particular, because I definitely have this subtype, um, I have come to realize that my nervous system really has less resources when I'm not eating regularly, and it can contribute to other difficulties like relationship conflicts or not being able to do what I set out to do. And so for me, I really bring a like, I'm doing this because I really care about showing up for the people and things in my life. And so I eat on, like I said, every 3 to 4 hours schedule, and I don't have any rules about what I eat. I can eat just trail mix for every meal. I can eat toast for every meal. I can eat ramen for every meal. I can eat ice cream for every meal. It does not matter what I eat, but I use the phrase consistent calories, and that's one of my values is that I give myself consistent calories so that I can support my nervous system. So I can show up for the people and things in my life that are important to me. Okay. So, yeah, strong overlap in ARFID and artistic traits. Some debate in the ARFID community about whether it's actually just a part of the autistic experience. And either way, like really, it's every part of us that's having any kind of behavior, whether it's viewed as positive or negative or disordered, it's there for a reason. It's got good intentions. A lot of overlap between ARFID and anorexia, which I thought was really helpful to see. Like I said, I'm not sure had I been diagnosed autistic early on, perhaps I would not have been diagnosed anorexic. Perhaps I would have been diagnosed ARFID. Certainly, there was an aspect for me culturally where my family culture and my community culture was very focused on thinness. And so in puberty on, there was an aspect for me around weight loss and body size. But this was present for me from childhood. And then the other piece I wanted to note is that there is a high incidence of autism and anorexia overlap. So when people are diagnosed anorexic, it's important to do an autism screening because there may be some neurodivergence there. Okay. And then I love how do we support this? Is like nervous system stuff, right? Trust and safety. We're not going to force somebody. We're not going to question them. We're not going to make it harder for them. We want to support and encourage the person to feel safe enough so that they can start to create a new relationship with food. And so I love this. Instead of asking how to best support someone with an eating disorder, let's ask how can I create more safety and trust. So check out Sarah's website and book, Rainbow Girl. There's a few other resources here. I'll link everything into the description and let me know if you have other resources. I'd love to hear. Okay, lots of love.